This is the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast, Episode 1. Hello and welcome to this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. My name is John Melly, and this is the podcast dedicated to teaching in-depth and advanced marketing strategies for people in the voiceover and audio production professions. My goal is to help you make more money by showing you ways to leverage your time, charge more for your talents, and allow you to spend more time doing the things you want to do in your life. In this, the inaugural episode of this podcast, what I want to do is set the table and share with you some key points from an article I wrote a few years ago that has really become an anchor for all that I teach and coach people about marketing their voiceover businesses. You see, I firmly believe that we have the right, and in fact, we have the obligation to fully become all we're meant to become and to share the gifts and talents that have been given to us. I also believe it's perfectly acceptable to promote yourself so people are aware of your talents so you can help them. If people don't know about you and what you do, then they can't engage you for your services. You might be just the person they're looking for, and unless you let them know about you and what you do, you go undiscovered and they continue on their search. So in my opinion, marketing is in fact helpful to people if done the right way. Finally, I believe you have a right to be paid well for your talents and gifts so you can live the life you want to live. Now, I'll be talking more about this topic as we travel along together. A moment ago, I said marketing is helpful to people if done the right way. What do I mean by doing it the right way? Well, I mean you offer products and services that are of high quality and of value to the client and delivered in a forthright and ethical manner. You're not going to try and sell them something they don't need, and you're going to live up to the promises you made to your client. Many people have the impression of marketing as loud and crazy used car ads, and well, that's one form of marketing, and it may be appropriate in some circumstances. But I have a broader view of marketing, and I want to share those opinions and thoughts with you. And some of the thoughts that I have about voiceover and marketing our voiceover businesses is taking a look at voiceover in a unique way. And in particular, what do you bring to the voiceover marketplace? What makes you unique? And so a few years ago, I was at a marketing conference, and there was a presenter there that asked the question, "Are you a commodity?" Now, nobody likes to think of themselves as a commodity, but then to rub it in further, he asked two more questions that helped you determine whether you or your business is a commodity or not. And the two questions were, what are the top 5 services you provide to your clients? And does your competition provide those same services? If the answer is yes, then you're a commodity. Well, you should have heard the moans and groans in the audience. And I have to tell you, I was feeling a little uncomfortable myself. So, being a commodity, if you answered yes to those two questions, does that mean that we're doomed to be equated with bushels of wheat and barrels of oil? Heck no. Let's first look at the definition of commodity. Simply put, commodity means something commonly found or readily available. So to avoid being a commodity, we have to differentiate ourselves from our competition. Now, obviously, everyone's voice is different. And aside from that, how do we make what we do different from other voiceover and production talent? We've got to become scarce, in my opinion. We've got to do something that no other voice talent is doing. Or we have to at least make ourselves scarce in our customers' eyes and ears. And here's another question that you have to answer. In order to position yourself as something unique and different, you have to answer the client's question of, why should I use you instead of any of your competitors? Being able to answer this question is the key to unlocking the power of your voiceover pricing and your voiceover business. In marketing parlance, this is what is called your unique selling proposition or your USP. And it's a tough question to answer, and to be truthful, your USP can and probably should evolve over time. And mine is still a work in progress. But once you define your USP, or you become unique in the eyes of your customer, all kinds of marvelous things start to happen in your business. Your clients see you as the expert in your field, the go-to person for voiceover projects. They start to refer you to others who may need your services. And since you are unique, there's less resistance to your pricing, so you can charge more. Let's talk about positioning. Another one of the speakers at the same marketing conference that I was at a few years ago was a gentleman by the name of Nido Qubein. Now, Nido was born in Lebanon and came to the United States as a young boy. He's now, among other things, the president of High Point University and the chairman of the Great Harvest Bread Company. But Nido powerfully demonstrated the concept and importance of increasing perceived value with a simple 1-pound bag of Hershey's Kisses and a 1-pound box of Godiva chocolates. And this was an amazing presentation that he gave. It was really eye-opening to me when I saw it. And the metaphor was so powerful because it was something that we're all exposed to, Hershey's Kisses and Godiva chocolates. So the question he asked was, why 2 items with essentially the same ingredients and taste were so markedly different in price? A 1-pound bag of Hershey Kisses sells for about $4. A 1-pound box of Godiva chocolates sells for 10 times as much at about $40. He went on to say that you buy Hershey Kisses to eat, and you buy Godivas to give as a gift. You put Hershey Kisses in a bowl and give them away. Godiva chocolates are prized, hidden away in a cabinet, and only shared with someone special. Why is this? Perceived value. Don't get me wrong, Hershey Kisses are delicious, and if they're out, you can count on me grabbing about a half dozen and eating them. And that right there says something, doesn't it? Would you grab a handful of Godiva chocolates? No, you'd probably eat just 2, maybe 3, and if you did, you'd think you're really splurging because you want to make the Godivas last. Take a look at the packaging. Hershey Kisses come in a clear plastic bag. They're stacked in piles on store shelves or piled in these large bin boxes at the end of the candy aisle or at the end of the checkout counter, and you just pick it up and toss it into your basket or shopping cart, and they pick the thing up and they slide it across the barcode reader and they go boop, and there's the price that comes along, and then they throw it in a plastic bag and throw it into your cart. You wheel it out to your car and maybe you tear it open and have a handful of them. Now, think about Godiva chocolates. Godiva chocolates are packaged with each piece having their own little section molded in the tray. They're neatly layered within a gold foil box, a satin ribbon and bow on top with the Godiva logo embossed on the lid. The chocolates are displayed in fancy cases with elegant lighting. And you might be waited on by someone who may help you select the chocolates you're buying by hand. Now, the whole experience of buying Godiva chocolates is special because you're going to buy them and you're going to be giving them as a gift. Here's the point. One chocolate's presentation and buying experience is totally different from the other. But here's a more important point. Sometimes people buy Hershey Kisses and sometimes people buy Godiva chocolates, and sometimes they're the same people, just buying different kinds of chocolates for different kinds of experiences and uses. The concept that I want to share with you is that you can create your own Godiva zone, if you will, in which you live and operate. And you do it with the words you use, the way you treat your clients, how you look after them, how you dress when you meet with them, the language you use when you speak on the phone with them, the language you use when you write your emails. We're in an interesting time where we have this bridge of new technologies and people who are familiar with the older technologies, but they're using newer technologies. And we have this group of people who are interested in, or they're more current with the technology and they're interested in using a shorthand, and they're not necessarily careful with their grammar, their punctuation, and sentence structure. I want to tell you that if you're using shorthand in your emails, please know who your audience is because it matters. If you're sending off texts and emails that don't use punctuation and you're not capitalizing the first word in every sentence and you're not capitalizing first names, that annoys people. I have to tell you, one thing that drives me crazy is when I get an email from somebody who's used a smartphone and under their name they say, please excuse the typos and my thumbs as I'm texting you this message. That bothers me. I think if you can't devote enough time and thought to putting a little bit of care into your emails when you're communicating with me, it implies a lack of concern and that they're just rushed in getting the communication to you and not putting too much thought into it. That's how it comes across to me. I have one foot in the door of new technology, which I think is marvelous, but at the same time, I also know how to write a letter. And working with copy all day long and scripts, I'm sure a lot of you listening to this right now can identify with the importance of having punctuation and knowing sentence structures. Even if you're going to revise the copy on your own, When you get a script and there aren't periods at the end of the sentence, stuff doesn't make sense, and you kind of have to work it over again and try and figure out what they're trying to say in the script. Anyway, I think the same thing applies to emails and text messages. So I guess to sum this up, I think it's a good idea to use proper grammar and punctuation in all forms of communication because it'll matter to some folks that you do. And for those who don't really care, they're not going to notice anyway, so you really can't lose by doing it the right way. I just think it's a good practice to get into. Anyway, moving on, we're talking about creating your Godiva zone. You create it also with the demo packaging that you send out, if you still send out CDs, or if you're doing custom demos for particular auditions. The whole experience that they have with you in the studio, their whole experience with you from beginning to middle to end, and the follow-up on the project that you do for these folks, that's your presentation. That's your Godiva box in gold foil and satin ribbon and embossed logo. Another example Nito gave were the differences between Disney parks and Six Flags or Universal Studios parks. Disney beats its competitors hands down, but they also have the highest ticket price. How do they do this? Disney pays so much attention to detail in everything they do. And they do it so that they create a wow experience for all their guests. Here's an example. Did you know the lampposts along Main Street, USA at Disney are painted every single day? They're painted at a specific time so that they dry just in time before the park opens, so that they have the highest shine for the people to see as they first enter the park. Disney takes into account the humidity level every single day to determine the exact time they should start to paint them so that they dry in time. Did you know that Disney commissioned Kodak to do a study of colors? If you've been to a Disney park, you'll notice that in the Magic Kingdom and also in the Epcot Center, anywhere around the park, the walkways are kind of this mauvish pink color, and that the curbs are this charcoal gray. What they did was they did this study to determine which colors in the background provided the best contrast for the widest number of colors. So what they did was they did this because they want you to take pictures of you in the park, and they wanted the pictures that you take in the park to look terrific. They want you to look really good inside a Disney park. So rather than having white, pale concrete sidewalks and pitch black roads and all of that, the study revealed that this unique pink color and the charcoal gray color that they use on the curbstones and then the roads throughout the different parks provide the best contrast for the largest number of different types of clothing out there, so that everybody looks really good in pictures inside Disney. Folks, that's attention to detail. Most nights of the year, Disney's open till midnight, and people stay there all day with crying kids and all, and they don't want to miss a thing. They don't want to leave. Nito told us to ask ourselves, and I'll ask you this question: would someone buy a ticket to your park, your voiceover business? And if they did buy a ticket to your park, how long would they stay? Other questions that you can ask yourself are, how can I be the kind of person that people want to give? How can I be a box of Godiva chocolates? How can I get my clients to say, that's the person I want to do all my voiceover work? How can you create a wow experience for your clients so that you don't just have clients, but you have raving fans? So when you answer all of these questions, I guess the final question you have to ask yourself is, how can you make yourself scarce and not a commodity? Well, that's it for this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. If you liked this podcast and you thought we had some good thoughts to share with you, please subscribe to it at www.voiceovermarketingpodcast.com so you'll get notices of new episodes. And please share it with your friends and colleagues in the voiceover world. Also, it'd be a huge help if you'd like this podcast and rate it on iTunes to help keep it near the top of the list. Also, feel free to share your comments and questions about this episode and topics you'd like explored in future episodes at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. Also, if you'd like more information on coaching and mastermind group opportunities where we focus on growing your business, feel free to drop me a line at my cyber assistant's email address at mike@johnmelly.com. Thanks for listening. And now go out there and share your voice with the world.